How's it going, everybody? I am Kyle from Fantasy Forge Studios, and we are back with Session 14 of Adventures in Middle-earth, Eriador Adventures. We are joined by two of our players. Again, this should hopefully be the last session that Cole does miss, and hopefully in the new year he'll be back and we'll have all of our players going forward. But we are joined by both our players for Valinith and Theodric, and they are in the thick of it. Very much so in the thick of it. But before we do anything, let's go ahead and have our players introduce themselves before we have a couple of announcements to make, starting with Valinith.
Hey guys, I'm Forged here at Fantasy Forge Studios, and I play the character of Valinith, son of Morbith. He is a high elf from the city of Rivendell, so he is one of the kin of Elrond. And he's cool. He's 778 years old, 9 years old?
78, I think, still.
78? He's almost 79. But anyways, he is a scholar class. He uses a bow as his main weapon. And he's kind of like the healer in Adventures in Middle-earth. There's not really healers in Adventures in Middle-earth, but he's the most healy that there is. So he's pretty cool. And he is a jovial elf. He is not a Peter Jackson, Lord of the Rings serious elf. He is a J.R.R. Tolkien book jolly elf. So
he can work for Santa.
He could work for Santa, exactly, just in time for Christmas. No, he it's interesting. For sure it's interesting because they're in kind of dire straits right now. We are in the middle of a troll army at the current moment, so we'll see where things go. Should be interesting.
For sure, for sure. I'm going to go ahead and introduce Kyrian really quick. So Kyrian is a Dunedain. He is a kind of different kind of character than Cole is used to usually playing, but he's a little bit more serious and stoic, but he excels primarily in traveling. The areas in Wilderland that the company are currently adventuring through are considered known lands, and he's a wanderer, which essentially what that is you get bunches of benefits and buffs and stuff for you and your party when you are in known lands. But he is also a kind of a more DPS character. He has a bow, but he prefers to be kind of up in the fray with his longsword and his elven dagger, which he often checks to see if orcs are around or evil creatures of any kind. But he has been thus far in charge of guiding the company to the Broadcleave, where the plans for Captain Mormog are taking root. Yeah, that's kind of what he's doing. He's one of the older Dunedain that are in this area, and thus he is not chieftain of the Dunedain, but he's definitely a higher ranking captain of the Dunedain, as it were. And so, yeah, he's taking it upon himself as a kind of representative of his people to be able to do what Elrond asks and find out what's going on with Captain Mormog. And we'll go ahead and jump to Theodric.
Hey everybody, I'm that Tubby Australian. If you've been in the channel for any sort of period of time, I'm sure you've seen me around.
2.5 years?
2.5 years now. 2.5.
3 years almost. Yeah,
it's coming up. I play Theodric Grimborn. He is a slayer from Rohan. Specifically, he is a Rohirrim. Right now, he is 18 years old, and he is on a journey of self-discovery before he becomes a full-time member of the Rohirrim, working for Lord Esmond, his foster father. He wants to figure out where he comes from, kind of get in touch with his roots, and figure out how to control his battle fury that he suffers from. He's got his best boy Barada, his favorite horsey, with him, and he's very happy to be reunited with Valinith and to meet Syrian and Calafir, but he's not so happy to be surrounded by giant trolls and a very scary orc.
I mean, who is, right? Maybe.
Quick question.
Yes.
What kind of orc is he? Because he's not like a normal orc, is he?
I don't know if you guys found out last session.
Well, we've seen him. Would we know, just based off of what we've seen? He
definitely looks like a mixture between, like, he kind of is like a half troll, if you would maybe see that. However, with that being the case, at least from the accounts of Calafir and from all of you being able to see him firsthand, there's something that is like he's a half troll, but he's clearly like smarter. Typical half trolls, they're actually bred down in the southern lands of Harad, and they are usually very stupid. very kind of like gangly and like hunched, but he seems to kind of have like almost like a manly demeanor to him, like upright, like kind of almost like
but
proud,
he's not
as it were.
he's not like an urukai, is he?
No, those don't exist
Okay.
yet.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true.
It's
I forget.
Years until those exist.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No man orcs over here.
No man orcs. No.
No.
And so yeah, that's great. And so yeah, it's nobody's very much happy to be in the fray of a bunch of trolls. Least of which, Caliph here. So Caliph here is the last character. He's the DMPC. He is a captain of the Silversong Court of Dol Amroth. So he's a man of Gondor. His whole shtick is he is a sailor, as the men of Dol Amroth are, and he was chasing the black ship, the Cathu Phasgan, all the way up, basically the seas to the south, till a hurricane stranded him and his crew in the land of Eriador. One thing led to another, and he was essentially robbed of all of his goods. His companions were taken, and he is on a quest to save them, which he has done so already. But he, upon hearing Elrond's request to discover what's going on more with this creature, Mormog, he has joined the company in order to kind of discover what is going on there. But he is a warrior, essentially. He is called a class called a captain, which is kind of one of the more tanky classes. Essentially, he is really thick, and he provides lots of buffs to people who fight around him. And so he has like the ability to increase his weapon damage using like his charisma modifier, and then also using charisma, he can basically take blows for people and basically encourage them to fight better. So he's pretty cool. Very much supporty, thick. That's what he does. He's kind of heroic. He's definitely a man of Gondor. But with that being the case, just a quick reminder to all of those who are watching this that this is Adventures in Middle-earth. It's a D&D 5e campaign that takes place in the world of Middle-earth, set between the years of The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. So before the War of the Ring, but after the fall of Smaug. And it's about, I think at this point, 8 years? 8 years since the fall of Smaug in the Battle of the Five Armies. And for those who had been watching for a while, we've already had Wilderland Adventures, which happened everything kind of east of the Misty Mountains, and all of the stuff that went down there, and kind of the power vacuum that's going on there. And now in Eriador, there's not really been a power vacuum. The thing about Eriador is it's a kind of a vast wilderness that since the wars of basically Angmar and the Witch King has been pretty much barren, pretty much just like a vast wilderness that's been watched over by the Rangers of the North and the Dunedain. And there is a lot of evil that takes root there, but no like really big powers for a couple hundred years have really even risen to become like basically the threat, at least that Angmar used to be. However, there is a shadow that is moving now in Eriador, and it is up to this company to be able to put a stop to it. I am Kyle. I am the lore master here. I play both with and against these players as they make their name in Middle-earth and shape the world for the upcoming events of the War of the Ring and the future of Middle-earth. And with that being the case, Dane, do we have any announcements or anything before we do begin?
So the rest of the week, we're not really quite sure the schedule moving forward. We were supposed to have Cole streaming tomorrow. He still has not gotten back to me on whether or not he will be streaming tomorrow. So I guess pay attention to the Discord to make sure that if he is streaming. As far as like in the new year, so next week, no streams at all. So we don't have Everlast next week, and we don't have like any of our normal streams. So we won't actually be coming back to streaming till the new year. So this may be our last stream of the year. So if you want to catch any updates or anything that's going on in Fantasy Forge Studios, feel free to join our Discord. That is probably the best place to check back on. But aside from that, I mean, if we do end up getting a stream in on Thursday, which again will be a makeup for our Monday stream, Twin Blades of Eorzea, which is our new series featuring a co-op stream of Final Fantasy XIV with Kyle and myself, we will be giving away a Dice Snacky box on there. So come join us for that. If you do happen to join that, make sure you do at least say hello in chat, because that's how we put your follower raffle ticket in there, because you have to be present for you to win that. Subscribers also get some extra raffle tickets, as well as anyone who happened to purchase a Dice Snacky box, which is pretty cool. So aside from that, I can't think of anything else. We have our new TCG coming out. So Kyle, I don't know if you have the ad.
I do. I have
ready
it
to
pulled
go.
up. So why don't we go ahead and just play that? Why don't we?
Kyle, apparently you're muted. Apparently you're muted.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much
Britt,
for
for
talking.
catching
I
that.
appreciate that. Yeah, but there are going to be 2 sets for the Tabletop RPG. Again, it's based off of our Tabletop RPG Everlast, but there's going to be 2 sets that will be released in March when it does officially launch on Kickstarter. It's split into a good set and an evil set. The good set is going to be called Heroes of the West, and it involves basically all of the allies of the Kingdom of Helix. So that's going to be kind of the northern part of the Great Peninsula, and for at least the players in Everlast, we've been doing a lot of stuff with that recently. Well, like at the very beginning, not recently. At the very beginning when we played, a lot of it took place in the kind of the northern part of the Great Peninsula. Now we're in the Inland Strait, but and then the second set, the Raising of Helix, is an evil set, and it revolves around kind of the various enemies that are in that area, but specifically focused on the orcs of Nosragod and the growing danger that they begin to pose on the Kingdom of Helix in basically the years that campaign takes place. And so, yeah, it's really, really cool. We've already begun work on the next sets as well. And so this is definitely a game that it's not going to be just kind of like a one release and done. There's going to be many, many sets in the future coming out for this. But we have, fortunately, because of all of your generosity and just kind of the hype behind Everlast as a tabletop RPG, we've been getting lots of art commissioned for it. And it's a great way to be able to use it. Like I've always loved tabletop RPGs, but I've also loved trading card games. Pokemon is like one of my like first loves when it comes back to like trading card games, like way back in the day, back in high school. Oh man, it was like half my life ago. How old am I? But like back when I was in high school, like I really started to pick up that, and now we're at a point where it's like we can create our own tabletop RPG. We have technology. I've learned skills to be able to actually create things
Trading
like
card
this.
game too.
Yeah, trading card game, and it's just I'm very, very excited for all of it. And like I said, there'll be lots of content coming out on the whether it's tutorials, that kind of stuff, even probably some match play from Max, Dane, and myself as well. And yeah, so look forward to it. It'll be really cool.
And also, we will be posting. We will also be Fantasy Forge will officially become an official LLC in the new year, which is cool. So that's going to be really exciting. Meaning there's going to be a lot more professional work coming aside from just our normal streaming. So look forward to also local events. I mean, obviously starting in the United States because we're based in the United States. However, hopefully we can spread it to other countries and other continents as well. So especially when it comes to the card game, we're going to be hosting pre-release events. If anyone is interested in any pre-release events, please reach out to me in the Discord, and we'll see if we can bring it to a state near you. So, yeah, it'll be good.
Perfect. And without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into our adventures of Adventures in Middle-earth, Eriador Adventures. a little bit of recap. So the company thus far, they have reunited at the refuge of the Dunedain with the latest edition of Theodric and Maraudorok. But currently they are tasked by Lord Elrond to go scout out who this captain is, this Captain Mormog, and what his plans are in Eriador. The most concerning thing about this orc, troll, whoever it is it knows how to speak the Black Speech, a speech that hasn't been spoken in Eriador for hundreds and hundreds of years since the basically the wars of the Witch King of Angmar. And this is quite concerning, meaning that whoever this creature is probably hails from the Black Lands of Mordor. And especially with the events and everything that had taken place, again, in the lore previously with the banishing of the necromancer and everything, there's definitely evil and the darkness that is on the move. And this is something that very much concerns Lord Elrond. And so our company, Caliphyr, Valineth, Kyrian, and Theodric, also joined by 2 dwarves who are on a rescue mission to save one of their companions, and also Elrohir, one of Elrond's sons, have made their way northward along the Horwell, the river that runs basically down south all the way into the sea eventually in the south, along the Horwell in order to find the Broadcleave, where a gathering of trolls and evil creatures are basically ready for some kind of event. And they've also met a dead lady. Her name was
Faradrin.
Faradrin. Yes, Faradrin. Mm-hmm. And she basically told them that there is going to be a meeting. That was the last thing that they saw as they made their way up the Horwell into the Broadcleave. They saw that there was a number of crates and barrels and whatnot, and an army of 50 or so odd trolls making their way through, grabbing all kinds of liquor, alcohol, literally like kegs of beer, and making their way up into the Broadcleave, but it seems to be guarded by 3 mountain trolls. No, not mountain trolls, hill trolls, who seem to be checking on all of the goods that are there. Elrohir has gone off in the meantime and has either tried to divert or do something with the group of men of Rujar, who are essentially marching to the Broadcleave to supposedly report the actions of the burning of the Broken Keep, which on their travel there, many events happened. One thing led to another, and fire. That's essentially what happened, is fire. And so Elrohir went to go peel off and divert them so that they don't give whatever news this is to Captain Mormog and basically unveil their position. And the last thing I guess that was mentioned was Faradrin mentioned that on the note that she had given the company, that it has in Sindarin a speech that everybody has to speak. And if they do speak it, they can turn invisible for, I said, 10 minutes? I think it was 10 minutes. 10 minutes of just invisibility. This is basically the specific hunter group that they were a part of. They're given one of these uses to be able to use, and once the words are spoken, it's the only time that you can use it. And so it's a very kind of last ditch effort type of thing in order to kind of save themselves if it comes down to that. But in the meantime, they had the company had snuck up basically on top of a hill, hidden from view from Captain Mormog, which many of them had seen for the first time, basically given orders to these trolls before disappearing up into the Broadcleave. And I will go ahead and turn it over to our players. So just to kind of set the scene a little bit, remember, it is springtime, kind of nearing towards summer, but here, this far north in the Misty Mountains, it's still harsh kind of winter conditions. There is basically this fog from the Misty Mountains that is covering a large chunk of it, but as you've gotten closer to the mountains, the fog is actually lessened to a degree, and you can see a little bit further into the distance. But there is still a driving snow, not quite a blizzard, but pretty heavy snowfall is falling. And all of the shapes of the trolls that are basically making their way up into the Broadcleave kind of have like this eerie sensation of like the hills themselves moving. And yeah, we're going to go ahead and give it to our players.
Valineth kind of, after the ghost girl disappears, kind of looks towards the party, Kyrian, Theodric, the dwarves, Caliphyr, and says, "Well, It seems like we have a bit of a predicament. I mean, as Faradrin said, it seems like they will be drinking tonight. So maybe we'll have a little bit of cover, but that still begs the problem. How do we get out in there without being spotted?
Kilafir, he scratches his head and he says, we also have to determine whether we try to make our way in by night or by day. If there are any stone trolls that are within their midst, they cannot be out during the day, meaning their numbers may be less. But they're also very dumb. I think they're going to be the last people to know of our presence, regardless of whether we go in or not. What do you think, everybody?
Going in the day does sound good, but that does beg the question. If the stone trolls can't be out during the day, will they not just be in the fortress that we're trying to infiltrate instead?
Yes, and when will he give the speech? Speaking of which, what's his name? Mormog. Mormog himself will be tonight giving this speech, and we're expected to hear it. We actually have to be within there to be able to hear it itself, and I think that our best course of action is to be there with all the drinking and the revelry personally.
As this is happening, you see that Kyrian, he's gazing down into kind of the valley, the opening of the broad cleave, with his eyes basically fixated. I'm going to have both Valineth and Theodric. I'm going to have the two of you make insight checks for me.
Insight. First rolls. Insight.
I only got a 7.
Nice. 17 for Theodric. For Valineth.
Theodric, as you basically are thinking about kind of the stealthy approach that you must take, you prepare Baradrock, and actually Caleb here makes his way over to you, and he says, if sneaking is what we'll do, I'm afraid I'm going to have to leave all of this here. Maybe we can hide it. This seems to be a pretty, well, unassuming location. Perhaps we can create kind of some kind of barrier. If there is anything that we are carrying, we can pick it up on our way out. And he takes off basically his armor, and underneath he has basically kind of like this lighter, like gambeson. It's like a kind of like a very dark blue with kind of some silver embroidery on it. But it looks like it would provide like a little bit of protection, but definitely not as much as before. He is going to keep his great shield and his sword on him, but he is tucking his armor set away. Yes, Dave.
I don't know about Theodric, but didn't Elrond also give us elven cloaks?
He did.
Yes. Okay. All right. So just Valineth's going to make sure he has that as well.
Yeah, I don't know. So Elrond may have given it to you, but I think I remember back at the Refuge of the Dunedain, that was one of the things that everybody was
for everyone.
Was cloaks.
Everyone has got
okay. For that to be able to be hidden.
Cool. Well, because again, those will help keep us hidden. But what did Valineth notice with his 17?
Yes, and with your 17, as you kind of fixate your gaze upon Kyrian, you see him that he is glancing, but his eyes seem almost glazed over, as if he's not actually seeing anything, as if he is deep in thought.
Valineth approaches and puts a hearty hand on his shoulder. He says, "How are you doing, buddy? I know that it's been a lot."
Without even breaking his gaze, again, still kind of glazed over, he says, I've never actually stepped foot within the Broadcleave. And then he sighs and he actually blinks for the first time, and he kind of turns to you and he says, in days past, this is one of the last remnants of the fall of Arnor. Within the Broadcleave, there's something special to my people.
I see. This thing that's special, is it a physical item? Is it a building? What is it exactly?
It's more or less the location itself. But there's a prophecy. And he kind of rolls his eyes at that, but he says, but it was the final words of Malbeth the Seer. Rumor has been throughout all of our Dunedain communities, that our future is pre-written on that stone. There's a large stone that is there, a monument to the triumph, the defeat of the Witch King. After the fall of Arnor, the armies of Gondor and Rivendell united to thwart the Witch King and banish him. And with that, with the final dying words of Malbeth the Seer, the men of Gondor marched into the mountains. There's a great stone there, a special stone, and these words were chiseled upon the rock. They were to stand as a monument for my people to never give up hope, and to always be watchful. But no one that is alive today has even laid eyes upon it. Rumors can speculate only what it says. But one thing's for sure. As one of the very first Dunedain to be able to enter this treacherous place for so many years, I would like to at least look upon this stone, to see what it says, so I can carry word back to my people.
That is understandable. Would you have any idea about where this stone is? How far a day's trek, if any, into the Broadcleave we have to travel to get to this monument of sorts?
Years ago, the Broadcleave has... well, it may have changed since then. But it is a great valley that extends upward into the mountains. It opens up into a large ravine, kind of where the Horwell starts, and begins. During this season, it's most likely dried up. But at the very far end of it, this stone, rumored to stretch about 40 feet tall and 20 feet wide. It is truly a monument of our people, the work of the Númenóreans. And he thinks and he says, it's not so much a fortress or built out encampment or anything like that. It's simply a monument in the vast wilderness. A monument for hope for our people.
From what you know, based off of what we are seeing right here, do you think it would be heavily guarded at this time, or do you think it would be easily approachable?
You saw what I saw. 50 or more trolls have walked past there. And from what that specter had told us, if they start drinking, that might be our best bet. But there will be many eyes upon us within there. We must be stealthy and we must be sneaky if we are to do what we are going to do. Especially if we are to hear what this speech is, we need to be able to find a location to where we can not only hear what Captain Mormog has to say, but we can look around to see if our companions, our dwarven companions here, we can find any captives, any place where prisoners might be.
Agreed.
Which also proves another more difficult task, is if we do find more than one prisoner, how will we be able to escort them out of there with an army as large as this with inside?
Valnith sits there and thinks for a minute, and he's looking at all the trolls, and he's seeing, as he recalls them, and he sees it's a plethora of different kinds, right? It's not just mountain trolls, It's not just hill trolls, it's not just stone trolls. Especially if they're drinking. What I do know, and what I have witnessed myself, stone trolls aren't necessarily the most clever. If you remember at the Broken Keep itself, I forget her name off the top of my head, but that stone troll we encountered, she was very easily coerced. Yeah, Ryan was very easily coerced and fooled. Makes me wonder, especially once they start drinking. At the very least, if there's a way for us to get out, if we can cause some sort of commotion as well, as to create cover itself. And Valnith is kind of like scratching his head and just thinking, because it's not just our job to hear this news and see this monument, but we also must, at the very least, attempt to put a stop, or at least a hitch in the plan of Mormog itself. And by causing a disruption of sorts among the trolls, not by us per se, I mean, maybe perchance influenced by us, who's not to say that it wouldn't only buy us some time, but also allow us to, in the chaos, get as many people out as possible. And Valnith is just thinking about this to himself. I mean, speaking out loud, but just kind of thinking. Oh, what a predicament. There's just so much we have to do, and it seems like an impossible situation.
Keylafir says, impossible indeed. But we are a band of brethren, united up on one purpose. As long as we keep our wits about us, we have high chances of survival, I think.
And that begs the question. We still have what we have as far as cloaks, as far as ways to be able to hide ourselves and disguise ourselves. However, we also do have still have some of the cloaks and adornments of the Rudra as well. No, not Rudra, sorry. That's
Yeah.
thinking Everlast. Isn't that Everlast?
Oh, no, Rudar.
Rudar.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. Of the Rudar itself. I think we should keep them tight to us. At least those who are maybe perchance less stealthy should hold on to them in case they need to make a quick disguise at the last minute as well.
As you say this, there's a cloak that's already folded up in Keylafir's arms.
Yeah.
He's ready.
Of course. I mean, so what we have, I know, as far as the Rudar cloaks. So Valinith, Kirian, both of the so we have two cloaks that aren't shadow giving cloaks, or
yeah, they're
so we have
basically just
two
like
that are-
general like infantry cloaks. There are two cloaks that you also found at the Broken Keep. So
We have
for your
helmets
case,
as
Australian, they also found two cloaks that were essentially like captain cloaks from Angmar. And so they, upon getting these, by donning them, there is the potential to be able to gain points of shadow. You have to pass a specific check in order to wear them. But from what the group had found, these could potentially give you a free-ish passage through, essentially. At least from any of the underlings, they probably wouldn't question you too much. But again, there's also that potential of gaining shadow upon donning them. And basically, Kirian says, he kind of grimaces and he says, I would not turn to that unless it was my very last option to be able to. If we can keep stealthy, we might not even have to don such terrible pieces of shadowed history.
Exactly, but I think there's still a good chance that they could be of use. So keep them at hand if we do. Especially our dwarven friends here. I don't think they're sneaking in and out anywhere. If they are even discovered with these on, I think they're going to be found out pretty much right away, just based off of their stature themselves. So I think stealth is
Ginar says, "Speak for yourself." And she kind of shakes her head and she's like, "You understand that this is mountainous terrain. Us dwarves, we can duck in and out of it no problem. Probably much more than him." And they look up to Theodric and Keylafir, just like especially a giant horse. They just kind of like look up and like shake their heads.
Well, I meant no offense, my fine companions. It's more so I'm talking about donning the actual attire of the Rudar. I don't think you would stand out. You would quite stand out even with that on. So I think, yes, I think Kirian is correct. As in, we should do our best to try to sneak. However, I think we should also just keep them on hand just in case. Speaking of which, who should carry what? So, who's not stealthy?
Keylafir, he's definitely carrying a captain's cloak.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've only got a +1 to stealth.
Okay. Valinith's got a +2. Valinith, Theodric, if you want, since you're a man, you're a man, you can just wear one of like the normal, or have one of the normal cloaks. You probably don't need, or do the Rudar look very different than the Rohirrim as far as like their appearances?
Yes, so basically the Rudar, they have very kind of like darker, like more grizzled, like weather-worn features, and none of them are blonde. Like Theodric stands out like highly. He would have to cover his head
A
for
disco
sure.
ball in the desert.
Yeah.
Also has a helmet. So we've got two helmets. So Theodric can have one of the helmets.
Yeah,
I'll
one
take
of
the
the
normal
Rudar
cloak and the
helmets.
helmet.
Yeah. Valinith will take one of the captain's cloaks because I think Kyrian said initially before that he would never wear that again. So Valineth will also take one of the captain's cloaks and
Caliphyr has pretty high
Kyrian.
charisma, so if any like checks, like conversation checks need to happen, if he has the cloak on, like he's, I think, pretty set to be able to deal with that.
Yeah, Valineth is kind of like very average at those kind of things, so he's there. But yeah, Kyrian said he wouldn't wear it again, so he'll get just one of the normal.
He'll take one of the normal cloaks.
Yeah, cool. Will that begs the next question. Valineth kind of looks at the party. What do we do with Brodorok and maybe the stuff we don't necessarily want to carry in? Do we have a plan for that? Are we gonna hide them away? Are we gonna stow them? Or are you gonna take Brodorok with you, Theodric?
I don't think we're gonna be able to sneak a horse past all these trolls. No matter how well behaved Brodorok is, I just don't really see that as a possibility.
Is he majestic looking among the Rudar horses?
Oh yeah, like this is one of the like really nice like horses of the mark. Like these horses have been bred for war.
What a foolish question.
Brodorok is top tier horse.
I was just thinking
only
maybe
Shadowfax
also
ranks above him. Only Shadowfax. That's the tier list. Shadowfax, Brodorok, everyone else is pleb horses.
Everyone, and there's like 4 spots, like tier spots below everything else, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
What about Asphaloth, Glorfindel's horse?
Well,
Yep,
he's pretty
still
cool,
not as good.
And that also begs the last question. Speaking of Elrond's son, we do need to make sure that we keep an eye out for him as well.
And Caliphyr says he seemed pretty practical as far as the things that he's able to do, and he seems to have a good head on his shoulders. I trust that he'll be able to do what he can, if anything, at least buy us some time before those men make their way into the Broadcleave, which tells us, when shall we go? It looks like much of the, well, at least many of the trolls that have been making their way into the Broadcleaves have already ascended, but there still are those 3 trolls that are guarding the entrance. Looks like they've been drinking a little bit, but I'm going to actually have the 3 of you, so Theodric, Caliphyr, and Valineth, I'm going to have you make investigation checks for me.
Investigation.
I got a 14.
I got a 16.
And a 12. All of you notice that if there's any time to do it, now would be better than ever, especially with the potential of actual men coming in basically pursuit behind this group of trolls. There are essentially, so as I had mentioned, there are 3 trolls. They are hill trolls, and they seem to be, one of them is kind of off on the far end, rummaging through some of the basically wares. There's probably about a like a 50-ish foot, pretty steep, basically hill that you would have to go down in order to get into kind of this valleyed area. And there are, again, many stacks of crates all over the place, and they're kind of just like hodgepodge placed throughout. And so there's some places to be able to hide if you need to do so. But essentially what this is going to look like is, if you want to sneak past these trolls without being caught, these ones have started drinking a little bit, but they are still a little bit more aware than maybe some of the ones that are up in the Broadcleave already. It's going to be group stealth checks, and you will have the ability to do dexterity saving throws to avoid being caught if that does become the case. You're going to have to, you have 1 dexterity saving throw to use, and you will need to be able to decide to use it without me telling you whether you failed the check or not. So based off of your roll, you can do that. And essentially what that would be is it would allow you to duck behind some crates. And if you do succeed in it, you will be trailing behind the rest of the group, as it were, and then you will have to do more stealth checks if that is the case.
Do we have any extra bonuses from having our elven cloaks on as far as the sneaking goes?
So essentially you will have advantage on your stealth check. It's not going to help you on your dexterity saving throws if you wish to do that.
Cool. Well, I guess it's a better time than not. And Valineth kind of does his best as he's looking out across the plain, kind of trying to see a path that's away from the trolls, but still one that gets us by them while still having enough like debris and boxes and barrels and stuff in the way that gives the company the best chance at doing so. So is there any way he can make
I
it?
can kind of briefly set something up for you to be able to kind of show you as far as like where trolls are like on this map. So let's go ahead and just pull these 3 trolls. So these trolls are kind of in this area. So we'll use these kind of like ranges as like your entrance to the Broadcleave there. There's 2 of them, and this is kind of like where your guys are hiding. And then there's like some crates and stuff that like there's like a stack of crates that these guys are looking at here, a stack of crates that he's looking at here, and then some crates here, and a large set of crates that are set basically throughout here. And so you would essentially decide whether you want to sneak around the long way, come this way. If you want to go directly, it would only be 1 stealth check to make. It'll be a little bit of a higher essentially DC in order to pass. The lowest DC would it be if you basically snuck through here and came this way, or you could do kind of second highest where you can go around this way and this way. It would be suicide to go this way and then this way. It kind of depends on like what you want to do as far as that goes. But as a company, just
Well, since there's a lot of us, and I know stealth isn't necessarily our strong suit. I mean, there's a couple of us. Kyrian, Valneth's very average, but I have no idea how stealthy the dwarves are, and I know that Theodric and Calefear aren't super stealthy. They're
the
better
dwarves.
than...
The dwarves have a +2 because of the mountainous terrain for stealth checks.
Oh, cool.
So
Okay.
Do we
Well,
wanna
either
do-
way,
Do we want to do the safest route with the most checks?
I would.
Because that's
There
what
will
I'm
be-
Personally, I would.
there will be 3 checks coming through here. There's 1 check coming through here, and then there's 2 checks coming this far away.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do that.
First check.
So we'll do
As you begin to descend basically the mountainside, I'm gonna have you, all of you, make your first stealth check. So it's a group check essentially. As I had mentioned, you get your 1 dexterity saving throw to be able to use without potentially being caught.
An advantage, right?
Yeah, at advantage.
Oh, wait, this is an advantage?
You
Yeah,
all
it's
have
an
an advantage
advantage.
because of your Elden Cloaks.
Oh,
13 for Valneth.
18 for Calefear.
19.
for Theodric? Yo. Yo. Nice. Oh, Kyrian. Kyrian.
This is because I specifically took off my great shield.
Nice. Gotta like that.
I
What was your,
refuse
what
to
was
roll
your
it.
check, Theodric?
Natural 20 for Kyrian. So Kyrian sneaking.
Theodric, what was your roll?
18. 19.
19. Oh my gosh.
I
All
got
right.
very
Well,
lucky.
and then the dwarves. I'm gonna roll for them real quick.
I don't even think they need to roll.
They get a +2. Okay, that's a natural 20 for Anar, and a 19 for Ginar. As the group of you make your way down behind this first set of crates.
Cool.
You see that the trolls, they seem to be quite busy at what they're doing, but the one over here, he actually picks his head up, not as if you have been spotted or he's seen everything, but he begins to walk over to the far side of this pile that you're at. And slowly he's beginning to rummage through, and you can see that he's picking up, opening crates basically with the top of his hand, like the top of the crates with his hand, and he seems to be looking through and sniffing as if looking for something to eat. This is your chance to be able to make another stealth check.
Cool.
Again,
Can Valneth also like listen to hear if they're conversing at all or saying anything between each other as they're sneaking?
make a perception check for me.
24.
Jesus.
As 19.
Yes. So essentially what they're saying is they're just like, "Blimey, why does the captain have us out here in this cold? There must be something in here to warm me up." And he seems to be looking for something specific that would warm him up, most likely from the inside. Some kind of special liquor that's in there. And he calls back to the back right person troll over here, and he says, Oi, any luck finding anything? Any of them dwarven spirits? And the troll over there says, no, not yet. Just keep looking. And then they call over to this one. Keep your head on a swivel. If the captain or anyone higher up sees us looking for such valuable mead, we would be in quite a bit of trouble. And then the other one just goes, just kind of grunts.
So nothing important. They're just looking for alcohol.
They're
And
distracted, essentially.
Valneth turns to the rest of the group and says, I don't know about dwarven spirits, but we did see a human spirit earlier.
Ginar on her stealth check got a natural 20. And then
Oh, is this the second one?
Yeah,
Alright,
the
hold
second
on.
one. And then a 14 for Anar.
Okay.
I got a 15 on my second stealth check.
Let's get better than a 4. Let's see. Let's roll again. Not much better. A 9 for Valineth, and then Kyrian.
Ooh, a 17 for Calefir.
14 plus 15 plus. This is stealth.
Mm-hmm.
15 plus 5, 20 for Kyrian.
Is everybody
Valineth's
good
not
on the
being
rolls?
very sneaky. Well, Valineth got a 9, so he was telling jokes.
As I had mentioned, if you do don't like a roll, you can make a dexterity saving throw.
But they're group checks, aren't they?
No, everyone has individual checks.
Oh, okay. I'm making a dexterity saving throw then.
As
That is not good.
the group begins to proceed their way forward. Actually, I have tokens for the dwarves, so I might as well use them.
No! Why? It's a 4. If anyone out there has an inspiration they can give, Valineth would very much appreciate it. He's rolled like 3 4s in the last 5 minutes. Thank you, Britt. I appreciate it, Britt.
Britt coming
Thank
in
you,
clutch. That 100 string streak gives you a lot of points, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah, natural 20 for a 22. Thank you, Britt.
Britt coming in clutch once again.
In
How many
clutch.
times? How many times do you reckon we've been saved by Britt? throughout all of AME, because I know it's happened to me a fair few times.
Britt is a key character in AME at this point. She is the fate influencing the world.
Because
Thank
of
you,
that
Britt.
nat 20, however,
Yeah.
because of that nat 20, you actually don't fall any further behind. You're able to stick with the group and continue onward. You have one more check, but as you begin to near this place, you really find yourself caught between a rock and a hard place. There are 2 trolls that are flanking either side, and just a turn of a head could potentially mean that they see you, meaning time is of the essence. I'm going to have all of you make just some dexterity saving throws for me.
Oh boy, here we go.
Uh-oh.
Caleb,
We don't get
this
any
is just
bonuses
normal.
for this, do we?
Caleb here got a 15.
Well, that's
I
an
also
8 for
got a
Valineth.
15.
Let me do the dwarves real quick.
Man. Valineth, why you rolling like ass?
17 for Anar. And a 13 for Ginar.
Oh, Kyrian. Save. 5 plus 12. 17 for Kyrian.
Wow. And so as you make your way basically into this, the group of you, Calefir has eyes on this one over at the side, and Valineth, you have eyes on this one over to the right. And you, as both of them turn their heads, Calefir, he gestures with his hands like, go, go, go. And Valineth, you say, go, go, like just with basically very quietly whispering it. And the group officially does get through. However, this one turns his head. He's like, "Oh, did you hear something?" And with that, I'm gonna have both Calefir and Valineth make stealth checks.
Oh my gosh. Well, at least it's an advantage this time. Okay.
15.
15 as well for Valnith.
The two of you are able to like basically hide and press yourselves with your backs into the side of this basically section of crates, almost as if you are just kind of like cloaks that are draped along them. And this troll, he makes his way over, and you can hear him sniffing as he comes close. And actually, as he does, you can smell alcohol coming off of him, but even more than that, just kind of this foul, like rank smell, almost kind of like the smell of death. And you hear a... Oi, do you smell that? Something tasty. And he makes his way over to these crates, and as he begins to dig, the two of you are able to make your way. Slip out.
Valnith whispers as they get out of ear reach of them, says, "Must have been your flesh, your man flesh."
And Caliphyr, he looks back and he just says, "How can you joke at a time like this? I nearly soiled myself."
Well, you don't live as long as I have without seeing the bright side in things. We did get by without being detected, did we?
Seems so.
Yeah.
As you begin to kind of slip up, and so as the environment of the Broadcleave it's a large valley that like basically like intersects the like bottom, and you can see that it eventually basically upward, like if you continue to go forward, it comes out of this kind of like cavern, like cave-like structure, which this is the beginnings of at least this section of the Horwell. And so on either side, basically there are roughly hewn kind of like inclines on either side of this valley that begin to raise upwards, which eventually connect up at the center, which basically is like this large path that leads up further into the Broadcleave. And so you could continue to either essentially go up these ramps or make your way it's probably a little bit safer to go along the Broadcleave, but then you would have to make a climb up onto the main section. So if you want to just kind of like casually stealth your way up on the side, you can do so, or you can attempt to make essentially strength athletic checks at the end of the intersection.
Then that begs the question. Half of us are strength and athletic, and half of us are dainty and stealthy. So,
Look, I'm gonna be honest. I'm not bad at stealth. I'm just better at the other things. So I think we should just go with the stealth, because that climb sounds like.
Well, we have
that's the
advantage too. We have advantage
right?
on those.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think that climb, there's too much of a high chance someone fails that, and we're also sitting ducks while we're climbing. So if we're spotted, there's nothing we can really do about that.
Astute observation, Theodric. I'd happen to agree with you. I missed having the wise words of Theodric in the party. Ha ha. I see.
And Caliph here, he says, and that begs the question, do we take the left path or the right path?
I think we should take the one less traveled. That will make all the difference.
Valinov, make an investigation check.
You know, sometimes Robert Frost, his words of wisdom, can work. Investigation. That's insight, intimidation, investigation. 17.
It looks like the majority of the footprints are going up the left ramp. And again, these are large stone, like troll footfalls. On the right, you see that there definitely are troll footfalls that go up in that direction, but is fewer than on the left.
Well, that begs the other question. Aren't we trying to go where the trolls are going?
It is. I think the chances of running into someone, this is Kyrian speaking, I think the chances of running into a troll are much higher upon this left path. I believe all roads lead to a singular road, a singular path that ascends up into the Broadcleave.
Can Valnith, like, look at the footprints and decipher what kind of trolls are going to the right, or is it just hodgepodge trolls?
I'm going to have you make a Shadow Lore check, and this is going to be at disadvantage.
That's fine. I get that. Come on. Roll. 14 or 14.
14. You kind of try to you look at these prints and decipher. Many of they're in various sizes, and actually you can see what look to be some kind of humanoid footprints that have kind of intermingled with it here, but primarily covered up by the large footprints of the trolls.
Okay.
You can tell that there are different kinds of trolls that are here. You're unsure yet, and also unfamiliar with what exactly kind of trolls, but you could probably garner that there's more than 30 plus tracks of footprints that are here.
Okay.
The basically these ramps that have been like carved into the side of the mountain, they extend probably about 25 feet in width, and so like trolls could probably stand 3 across and like to make their way, and they're actually pretty barren. There aren't very many places to hide, other than trying to make yourself small. If there's any basically watchers that are up in the mountains and the cliffs, you would pretty easily be spotted if you didn't have these elven cloaks, most likely.
Can Valinith take a look with his elf eyes and see if there are any spies in the mountains that he can see offhand?
Because of the storm, I'm going to say you can, but it's going to be disadvantage. So make an
Okay.
investigation check for me.
Lots of investigation. Okay. 21 or
2.
I'll take it. 16.
Your eyes are raised up at kind of like the taller sections of the cliff, and you actually do notice that there are wooden platforms that are built out there. You do not see anybody on them at the moment. These are most likely a hint that your presence has not been noticed, and they're not on high alert looking after people. However, these are built to see if there are intruders, essentially.
Valinith says to the rest of the group, I don't see any, doesn't seem like we've been caught, and I don't see any scouts up ahead. I think this is our best time to move to the right. I would wager is best.
Caliph, you're nods in agreement.
To the right we go.
This is a group check, so not individual. Stealth check
All right.
at advantage.
Ooh, doesn't even need to roll that again. That's a natural 20 for a 22 for Valinith.
11.
19.
Dwarves.
Kyrian 18 plus 5. 23 for Kyrian.
Yeah, the doors don't even need to roll. You guys are very stealthily making your way up this incline, and you probably wander this for about 10 minutes. There are various basically rock shapes as you go through. You notice a couple of things. On your right side, since you're going up the right side now, on your right, this is where the broad mountain face is. And you can see that chunks of it seem to have been ripped out of the side of the mountain, almost as if the trolls have themselves been carving away at it in order to widen the path. Additionally, you see as you begin to go higher and higher into the mountains, basically like the tall sheer faces of the rocks that are here seem less smooth, and the rocks themselves become more jagged, like almost as if you were looking at it from a bird's eye view. This would be kind of like the bottom of like a spike trap in a way. Like there's like placed kind of randomly throughout this area, there are like these spires that are like sharpened almost at the tip, and it kind of gives this like illusion of like a I don't know, just kind of like a very dangerous place, and you can actually begin to feel it as you continue to climb. Not only is it getting colder, and the pressure, like the physical elevation pressure, seems to be kind of becoming a burden on your shoulders, you also begin to sense that there is some kind of shadow that is beginning to creep in. I'm gonna have all of you make wisdom saving throws for me. This is for shadow.
18 for Valinith.
12 for Theodric.
Kyrian.
13 for Caliph here.
10 for Kyrian.
Kyrian gains 1 point of shadow. He
All
begins to
right,
climb, and
Dapper.
he says, There's a heaviness that's here, and you can see that this entire time he has his hand on his belt, and he has kind of clicked open the dagger from its sheath, and you can see that this entire time it's been glowing a faint blue the entire time. But as you continue to go forward, it begins to grow a little bit brighter blue, and he says, "We've entered a dangerous place. It's hard to believe that this was a sacred place to us Dunedain. It does my heart a disservice to see how desecrated it's become. This no longer looks like the work of Numenor and Gondor. This looks like the work of evil." And he closes his eyes, and you can tell that he feels this deep down as you continue to press forward. Eventually, these paths do come together, and you can see that the footprints begin to follow basically one singular trail that goes forward. At this point, though, you've noticed that you're no longer climbing the mountains anymore. It's kind of flattened out to a degree with a kind of a more of a just kind of gradual incline. This is an area that you can tell has seen a lot of foot traffic, and you can actually see that there are actually some trees that are here too. Many of them look like they have been hewed and cut down for uses of firewood or even the elements. It's kind of unsure of what that would be. But you do see that it does lead kind of up this central valley, and you can actually see up in front of you a large mountain that kind of sets as like a backdrop for this kind of area, with kind of some scattered mountains in front of it. And Kyrian, he points out and he says, "We're almost there. Just a little bit more," as you continue to sneak forward. I'm gonna have the group. Actually, I'm gonna have Kyrian. Dane, if you could roll for him, can he make a wisdom saving throw for me?
Okay. Goods. 18 plus 3, so 21.
He stops you all immediately as you continue this climb, and he says, "Wait," in a whisper. "Get to the side of the road." And he pulls out his bow as he continues to creep forward.
All right. We all get to the side of the road, I'm assuming.
Yup.
As he continues to creep forward. You can see that at this point, the storm has pretty much altogether stopped at this elevation. But you see that you come into contact here. Go ahead and populate this area here. You kind of take cover behind this kind of little tree stump that and these snowbanks that are here, and there's a tree as Kyrian sneaks up a little bit further. And as he does so, his eyes cut through the darkness, and he sees just up ahead, sitting on what looks to be all kinds of furs that have been laid out on the ground, a large two-headed creature. One of its heads is nodded off, and it's slumbering and asleep, and the other one is looking piercingly all around. Kind of like how a bird looks, where it's like kind of like jutting back and forth. I'm going to have Kyrian make a stealth check for me.
Sweet. I don't like that. All right. Okay, well, he'll take the first one. 11 plus stealth? 11 plus 5. 16.
He gazes, and he just ducks into kind of this tree but as the eyes of the awake troll dart over to the side. He presses his back against it, and he begins to breathe heavy before eventually sprinting back to the location that the rest of the group is. He makes his way over, and he says, "I have good news and I have bad news. The good news, it seems we're on our final ascent into the Broadcleave. The bad news, there's an Etten guarding the entrance."
Don't know what that is.
Make
What's
a
that?
Make a shadow lore check for me, Valineth.
Shadow lore? 15.
Ettins are mere legends at this point. Very few of them have been seen, and those that claim to have seen an Ettin in their time are usually written off as basically loony, as mistaken. An Ettin, what it is it's essentially some kind of a like a hill troll, but it has two heads, and it is very perceptive and very observant. They're more docile than the vast majority of trolls, and they seem to have more control of their faculty, perhaps because there's two heads that are thinking instead of just one. But they don't technically sleep, if that makes sense. Usually each head takes turns sleeping as they keep watch, which makes them the perfect guard dogs for whoever needs them for anything. And they're quite perceptive. They have a very strong sense of smell and better eyesight than most. It would take a lot to be able to sneak past one as far as like avoiding their gaze. Additionally, they are very kind of purpose driven. If they are given a task and a duty, they will do it for as long as they possibly can. But again, Valineth, you thought that these creatures were just rumor. Now that there's actually the potential of facing one, you kind of understand the dangers of what they could potentially pose.
Well, that is a problem. It seems that Mormog knows to keep its best guards out. Did you see Kyrian a way around it without being spotted, or is it blocking the only path through?
As you look up around you, you can tell that while the storm itself has kind of lessened to a degree, many of the mountains are caked in ice, meaning it would be a death sentence to attempt to climb up and around these mountains. You could attempt to do it, but again, the DCs would just be almost unattainable, especially for a group this large to be able to do. He looks around and he says, unless we can find a way to your point, Valineth, earlier, distract it and lure it away, we could potentially sneak through it, but by getting its attention, we also risk having its other head waken. That would make it even more difficult to sneak past.
So what do you suggest we do? I've never encountered one of these creatures before. It seems like it's very perceptive itself. Do you think luring it away would be the best course of action, if we could?
The group sits silent for a moment, as if contemplating its potential solutions. Is there any solutions that anybody would want to express?
Can I do a perception check of the area around the...
Yes. Go ahead and make a perception check for me.
Ooh, not good. 7.
Okay. You notice that, generally speaking, there's kind of like these small kind of hills that lead up to these side embankments as they kind of reach this central point pinnacle. There's two trees that are still intact that could serve as a decent hiding spots, but other than that, it's pretty barren, pretty icy, and getting your footing would be quite difficult if you were forced to at least hold your ground against anything here. So.
Okay, this is just over the top, like meta gaming for a second.
Yep.
If we were to try and sneak past, well, not the Ettin, but like if we were trying to, my mouse isn't. There we go. If we were trying to sneak down this way and around, what kind of checks would we have? Would we have to do any sort of athletics or acrobatics checks to not slip?
No. So basically, if you are forced to make this environment, essentially what you're able to glean from this information is if you're forced to make any kind of basically a constitution or dexterity or strength saving throws here, kind of the physical stats, they're going to be at disadvantage.
But if we were just trying to sneak down there,
yeah,
the terrain would have no effect whatsoever.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm thinking, Dane, what if one of us were to throw a rock really hard at this tree,
Yeah.
to get the
Or like
Ettin's
set a
attention.
fire of sorts. Although fire might cause too much.
Fire probably wouldn't work that well, and we don't want to melt the area or anything. But if we were to like throw a rock at this tree and to get it to come up to here to like investigate, we could maybe sneak around and past it. Because you said this is like a bank, right? An embankment.
Yep.
And this is up. This is elevated. Like both these sides are. So that would give us a bit.
Down here it's about a 7 or 8 foot, and then it creeps down to about a 3 foot down here. So it's pretty gradual.
So if we could get it to like here-ish somewhere, we'd probably have a really good shot.
Yes, I agree.
Past.
I think if we can get our company into position, I think whoever has the best arm, he basically looks at both Theodric and Caliphier. Maybe potentially we can cause a small distraction. At the very least, we need to make sure we move it from the spot because we're not getting past it as it's sitting there.
So if we can huddle around behind this tree where it can't see us, and then we cause the distraction, I think that might be what we're going to have to do. Because I can't think of anything else, if I'm being honest.
Caliphier says, he's like, that sounds well and good, but we also need a backup plan. And he looks and he says, as a group, when it comes to combat, being together might be our best chance to be able to take it down. However, spreading out might be a way to be able to distract it, to be able to disorient it. There are many options to fight such a foe, but unfortunately down in Dol Amroth, we don't experience trolls such as these. Very few trolls to begin with. I'm going to rely on the expertise of those who know this land and know these creatures. And he basically looks to Valinith and to Kyrian.
Well, as Kyrian had said, they're very perceptive and they're very duty-driven in themselves. So they're going to do their best, whatever, regardless, to keep an eye out for anything.
Oh,
at the very least.
Sorry, you keep going.
Oh, at the very least, we could try Theodric's plan. I think that there's no harm in it. If we can get it to move, that's definitely going to be the best plan that we have moving forward. However, I still don't like the thought of having to come in contact with it, because considering the fact that if we do happen to come in contact with it, we'll most likely have to kill it to be able to move forward. And then that also begs the question of whenever the next group of trolls or humans come through here seeing a dead Ettin, there's no way we're getting it out of the path.
And Caliphier, he shakes his head and he says, exactly the point I was going to bring up. Say that the plan goes mostly according to plan. We're able to sneak by. However, perhaps the Ettin notices one of us. We have to take care of it. There's no way that the fact that we are seen could be left, well, at least left to the whims of fate. If we go running into the Broadcleave with an Ettin on our trail, that'll cause enough of a ruckus, enough of a stir to alert an entire army of our presence.
Kyrian, did it have a horn or any way of alerting people?
Ooh, Kyrian, I'm gonna have you roll for him a history check.
Okay. History. Ooh, that's a natural 20 for a natural 20.
He did not have a horn. In fact, basically what you saw that he has is he has in one hand a giant club, and the other one what looks to be a great, like, basically jagged sword in the other hand. He doesn't seem armored except for some armored pauldrons that are on either side. And more so than just that, if he sitting down, he probably rises to about 10 feet. Standing up, he probably is about a 15 to 16 foot large creature. Much larger than the vast majority of trolls. This is a gigantic creature. However, you don't see that it has any capabilities other than perhaps chucking rocks of any ranged combat, or any abilities to make like an incredible amount of noise, such as a war horn, a drum, or anything like that.
And this also begs the question, is if we should use our disguises, because they're obviously expecting the men of Rudar. Is this another opportunity for us to sneak by this troll as well?
Do you think, Caliphyr, he mentions, he's like, so we have 4 of these cloaks and we have 2 dwarves with us. Perhaps we could lead them in saying that we got more prisoners for Captain Mormog. But that also means that, I guess I would have to do the talking.
Do you feel confident in that?
I do. However, one thing I do fear is if we do get past this checkpoint, per se, if our attention would still be alerted by more of the men of Rudar, sure, we might be able to get in closer as being disguised, but I think making a break for it might be difficult, however. And he kind of glances down at the scroll that is in kind of the backpack pocket of Valinith, and he says, perhaps if we do get in and we need to slip away, we do have a way to slip away unseen, unnoticed. That might be a good way of doing, and we might as well try. If all things go south, well, we have our weapons with us.
So, first and foremost, I think we should all change as much as we can into our Rudar gear. I think we should still test Theodric's plan first, because I don't want to get ourselves into a pickle. If we can just sneak by, I think that's ultimately the best. But if we can't get the what's his name, the Etten to budge, I can't see a better plan moving forward than that.
Kyrian, he says, that's all well and good. But let's say when we do leave, let's say if we are in a hurry, we're going to have to encounter him again. Do you think we'll be able to sneak out as easily as perhaps sneaking in, or do you think it'll be more difficult, especially if we cause a ruckus with us?
It depends on if we can save this scroll for later. If we can use it at the very last moment, I think it could be an easy way out for us to get back through here. However, if we have to use it again, then we're going to have to get creative. If we have to use it earlier than that, we're going to have to get creative. That's for sure.
I want to keep this, and this is Caliphyr at this point. He's like, I want to keep this treasure as a very last-ditch effort if we're all on the brink of doom. To be honest, this is what gives me the confidence to be able to make it through all the way to this point and for potential hope for our journey. It seems that we have at least 3 plans in place. It's better to be well-planned and well-equipped than anything else.
Well, I think we should gear up and hope Theodric's plan works.
Yes. Admittedly, planning isn't my strong suit, but it's what we've got. So, try to
Well,
make
we
the
all,
best out of a
I
bad
guess
situation.
we all put on our cloaks behind the thing.
Valinith
so-
Now-
and Caliphyr, the 2 of you have to make wisdom saving throws for me. 16 for Caliphyr. He's rolling hot today.
10 for Valinith.
As you begin to put on these cloaks and change, you're doing so as quietly as you can. You fold up your elven cloaks and put them away in your packs, but the one thing that you no longer get advantage on stealth checks at this point. So from going forward, all of your stealth checks are just made normally. And you begin to put on your disguises. So essentially, if you now at this point, going forward, that kind of bonus turns into if you have to make any kind of charisma-based check against creatures, you get a +2 to that. For any of these, with both Kyrian and Valinith getting a +3 instead.
Okay.
Or not Kyrian, Caliphyr and Valinith.
Well, hopefully once we get past this troll, we can change back, or at the very least throw our cloaks back over the top. I don't want to have to wear this as long as possible. I see what you mean, Kyrian. This thing is foul and cursed.
And with that, the group of you are changed, or basically changed, and Caliphyr, he pulls out a rope and he looks to the dwarves and he says, Remember, this is for your companion. And he looks specifically at Ginnar, for your father. And he pulls out a rope and he begins to tie their hands. And he says, I've done it loose enough that if you need to have access to your weapons or anything like that, they will be in my pack. You can grab them and you can just pull your arms out of them if need be. We will survive this. We will get through this. Hold on to hope. And with that, he basically tucks his sword at his side. He puts his shield on his back and actually covers it with his cloak, as it very clearly has very much Gondorian. It's
Markings.
Gondorian for sure. And you continue to move forward. And Calefir, he says, do you want to attempt to sneak past first? Or do you want to confront then? My fear is if we try to sneak past it, he'll think we're up to no good.
Yeah. Well.
How smart do you believe an Etten is?
Oh, they're incredibly smart. They're very perceptive and very. They're as smart as a mountain troll, if not more.
Kyrian, he says, he thinks on it, he ponders for a second, and he says, I think wisdom and intelligence. No trolls are intelligent, at least from what I know, from what I understand.
Right?
But-
Perception and intelligence are different.
Mm-hmm.
But if there is no, at least if we haven't been, they haven't been alerted to the presence of potential intruders, I don't see how he would think anything of potential intruders being the case. This place hasn't seen at least anybody and lived to tell the tale for hundreds of years. I think we're pretty safe in saying that as long as Calefir, and he kind of looks at Calefir questioningly, can do his job, we might be able to sneak through.
Okay, I think we abandon my plan and we just go with the bluff.
All right. Well, let's leave the talking to Calefir. Try to make yourself look as gruff as possible. And Valnith kind of like does like a little haggard kind of posture as he's like walking over, kind of like think like a mafia man, you know.
Okay, just
Prison
remember, don't do any talking, Belenith. Leave it all to
Oh.
Calefir.
Okay, good to know. But am I convincing of being a Rudar captain?
make a ooh.
Performance.
Yeah, make a performance check for me.
His performance
15.
for someone.
Yes, you are. You are quite
15.
convincing. So I'm gonna have Valinith be kind of at the back here with these two, kind of like. In this
He's not
image.
convincing. He's at the back.
Well, no, he's at
Captain
the back.
Sleep.
He's like the captain carrying up the rear.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so this is gonna be generally the. Are you guys okay with this? The formation.
Sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
Generally speaking. And so you, Calefir and group, you make your way up to the end, and the Etten rises, the one head, he rises, the other head is still asleep, and the troll says, Oi! You, stop there! And with that, the other head kind of stirs a little bit as it kind of blinking, and the hand with the sword is the hand that with the awake troll. And he doesn't point his sword, he just has it in his hand, and he says, What news you bring from Keep? And Calefir, he says, News indeed do I have. I mean, yes, I have news from the Keep. There's smoke off in the distance. I need to go tell my superiors about this. And he's gonna make a persuasion check, and then he gets a +6 to this because of his disguise.
Come on.
He has a +3 naturally, so that's a 12, 15. The troll looks down.
17.
No. So
18.
it's 12 naturally, with my
Oh.
+3, and then another +3 is 15. So he looks at the group and he says, "Ooh, you have tasty dwarves with you. I let you through, And you leave one of them as a snack. Calafir, he looks to either side at the men, both Kyrian and Theodric, and he says, I answer to my captain. I do not answer to you. Who do you serve? Mormog. And so do I. Now, if you would let me escort these prisoners through, they have much information that Captain Mormog needs to know. Oh, but you have all the time in the world. Captain Mormog has a speech. He's going to go ahead and, his last thing that Calafir is going to say is, fine. If that's the case, you're going to have to deal with the consequences of what the captain has for you. What I have to say, what these prisoners have, is of the utmost urgent importance. If we do not get through, it might be too late. Keeping it vague and ambiguous as much as he can. But he's going to go ahead and make an intimidation check. And again, this is going to be...
Come on!
I believe, yeah, a +6 again. So he's got a +3 plus another 3, so... So that's going to be a 14. And the troll says, your words don't scare me, tiny human. Does anyone want to jump in? This doesn't seem to be going awful, but it also is kind of like a stalemate as far as what's going on here.
Theodric's gonna put his gruffest voice on and say, look, Captain Mormog wanted the dwarves for digging or for information, I don't know. But I don't think he wants them for eating. So can you let us through already so we can give them to the captain and go get some grog?
Who are you, little one? Fine. Fine. Let's make a deal, man. And he addresses Calafir again. If you can get me some dwarven spirits, I will let you through. Yes, I will let you through. And the other head, he's awoken at this point, and his club is up, and he's basically propped it on his shoulder, and he says, yes, we'll let you through. I'm thirsty. Parched, I would say. And the other one says, shut up, I'm doing the talking. And he basically headbutts the other in the head, and the other one goes, fine, as long as I get some. What are you doing in this moment? You can see that these two trolls are bickering.
Do we have any dwarven spirits?
Well, Valinith has information. See. And so Valinith from the back is going to speak up and say, there are no dwarven spirits behind us. We just passed by the three of your kin on the way in. They were busy scrummaging and looking through the barrels themselves. All the dwarven spirits are up ahead.
And then one of the other head that was sleeping says, they were what? They're keeping it all to themselves. They must have drinking it all. And the other one says, those filthy hill trolls.
Filthy indeed, and not doing their job properly.
Make a persuasion
Now let
check
us through.
for me, Valinith. You get a plus 3 to the result.
Okay.
13. You is it a 13? Yeah, 13.
Yeah, 10 plus.
Yeah, you look, he says, oi, there's more of you. And he looks at the back and says, fine. You go tell Captain Mormog of what those nitwits have done. I will get my... And he steps aside 2 steps, and the two of them begin to argue. Those are filthy, filthy hill trolls. I will sink my teeth into their throats. And the other one is just like, Yeah, Trollblood, it's been a while, hasn't it? As the group of you are able to march through.
All right.
And with that, you have made it past the Etten for now. Jeez. The Etten for now. And you make your way up into the Broad Cleave, as it were. And again, there's like kind of like this central pillar that divides two paths, but it doesn't last long, probably about a 1 or 2 minute hike, until eventually it opens into this large, kind of almost like Colosseum arena looking thing, where there's all kinds of these like pathways that wind up into the side of the mountains on either side, eventually culminating to this very far end. You can see down further in kind of like the center of this this valley, all of the trolls. They seem to be drinking and joking. Oh, what do you think of this? Oh, this ale is good. Where did you get this? Oh, I think it's from Thorbad. Thorbad spirits. Oh, from all over Middle-earth, I think. And you can tell that they're drinking and quite jolly. All the way at the very far end, you can see this enormous blackened stone. And then etched in it look to be, it's too far at this point to be able to tell exactly what it says. What looks to be script, and it seems to actually have been painted white on the inside for it to stand out to a degree. And it's large and it's completely flat on the surface, almost like a black cracking marble in a way. And you see that there's kind of almost like this like pseudo stage area that's up in front of it that stands higher than the elevated area. And I'm gonna actually have Kyrian, I'm gonna have him make a investigation check for me.
Okay. 15 plus investigation. 19.
19.
Yeah.
As he looks up and around on either side, he sees that there are many of these kind of platforms as well, wooden platforms that have been built out. And you can see that there are actually flames, torches, kind of like sconces that have like roaring fires on either side, lighting up this area in the night. And he can see vaguely the outline of what looks to be men of Rudar. Up on these, basically keeping watch and looking out all the way around. But these paths kind of wind back and forth between different rock structures. So if you wanted to, you could either basically approach and attempt to continue what you're doing and blend in, or you could sneak around the sides to make your way all the way close, at least closer to the front of where it's at. But from this back position, that's all you can see. And with that, I'm gonna go ahead.
As we are like kind of walking out of earshot for everyone, I think our dwarf friends should put their cloaks back on. I fear for them that them even being prisoners in this aspect, they'll be taken away of some sorts if we get it. So I don't know about us necessarily being able to change and being, I think disguised enough is fine as is, but our dwarven friends, I think, should still put their cloaks back on and stealth their way through.
And with that, I'm going to actually have the group of you make stealth checks as you kind of get preparations. You're not completely visible in the Broadcleave here, but you're visible enough to where a potential eye could spot you. And with that, while you guys are doing that, I'm going to go ahead and do this kind of similar walking fashion that you guys were in.
Are we still? Do we still have advantage?
You get the +2 in your kind of deception checks, but because you don't have your elven cloaks on at the moment, you're still in your Rudar outfits. You don't have stealth check advantage anymore.
Okay, cool.
And Caleb
22
here, he turns around and he says, and as you look and you see like this group. Here, we'll just do this. Have a bunch of trolls that are just kind of down here in the center. This is good.
Yeah, 18 for Valinith and 22 for Kyrian for stealth.
And a 10 for Theodric.
Okay. It's average.
It is. I was spoiled by all those good stealth checks I did earlier.
That would normally be good for Theodric, right?
Usually, he's not a very sneaky boy. He likes to take his problems head on.
Yeah. Normally, I would agree, but you know, in this situation,
Look, generally, he's never faced overwhelming force like this.
yeah, it's true.
The
It's true.
closest was against Voltaire,
Mm.
and that was literally he knew he just had to stall for time until
The
our boy
Bjornings came.
Bayorn showed up to save him.
You get the dwarfs change without drawing attention to yourselves. Oh, actually, Caliph needs to make his check.
Caliph, don't screw it up. We believe in you, Caliph.
6.
Oh, Caliph.
While all of you are getting changing, actually, Caliph he makes his way up to this torch and he looks down into the valley. And he, like, his eyes just like open wide with just, you don't know if it's terror or amazement or fear, and he's kind of conflicted with that too, as he sees all of these trolls down inside, and you can see that like the sheer weight of all these trolls down in this valley seem to be actually like cracking the ice on the ground, as it were. He just stands like fixated, so much to a point where you hear a call. Actually, he hears a call up from this tower and says, "Oi! What are you doing? Get back to your post!" And Caliph looks up and he says, and he just nods. He doesn't say anything, but he has to make a performance check. So he's still got the plus.
He's
6,
good at
but
those, though. Yeah, he's good at those. He should be good.
He's got
at
an
those.
11 on that. It's just enough to pass. And he nods his head before he makes his way back, kind of in the safety of the rocks, back to you, and he says, "There are too many of them to be able to face in combat. We have to stick to this, to stick to our plan. If we don't, this will be the end of us." I tried looking around to see if there was anything, any place that prisoners would be stored. All I see are trolls and security guards, as far as the eye can see, surrounding this entire place. We must keep up this facade of being on their side for as much and as long as possible. Otherwise, I fear we won't make it out of here alive.
Well, that begs the question: what do we do with our dwarf companions? Valnith says.
Perhaps we can find somebody to talk to ask where the prisoners are, and maybe we can make our way that way without without causing too much of a ruckus.
I guess that could work in our favor, especially if there are more prisoners. We are partially looking for their cohort. Do we bring both of them, or do we just bring one? And Valnith turns towards the dwarves to see what they want to say.
The dwarves, Anar, he says, "Oi, I don't like the look of this, but, we've already come this far in." And it looks at Anar, and, so basically, so Anar is in the, complete, like, set of armor, and he says, "I think it's best if I, stay back. Ginnar, he's your father. I will cover our exit, if it does come to it." And he looks to Kyrian and he says, "But I do need a guard. At least they keep the facade of what's going on." And Kyrian, he nods in agreement and he says, "Fine. I'll be your eyes from the back." If worst comes to worst, he grabs the bow and he holds it in his hand. "I will silence anybody. Anybody that seems to want to alert us to any attention."
Are you sure it should be you, Kyrian? Aren't you the one who wanted to read what the stone has to say? That seems to be a...
I might be able to get close enough to be able to, And he looks back to Anar, and I'm gonna have him make a perception check for me, or insight check for me.
Kyrian.
Kyrian.
Okay.
So
Insight.
this is the stone that Kyrian
Yes.
wants to see, yeah?
Mhm.
Yep.
17.
17. He sees the determination in Onar's eyes, and he also sees kind of the strength in his body, and he looks to him and he says, "If you can keep yourself hidden away, I might be able to scout out this area, try to get close enough, have a bird's eye view of everything." And he looks back to the group. "You go find where they're keeping the prisoners. I will keep an eye out." And he draws his dagger, and he actually slips off northward in this direction. So he's going to be making his way this direction. You, as a group, can continue to follow him, or you can make your way in this direction. Whatever you want to do, or you could go up the middle in the pit of trolls. It's up to you.
No.
I'm thinking that... Where is it? Where's my mouse thing? What do you reckon? The lower path? 'Cause, like, that looks promising.
Yeah, that definitely looks promising. Also, we saw Kyrian slip off this way, knowing that he'll probably do as much investigating that way. So Valnith is cool with
We
coming
can always
back-
just
back
meet up
through
over here, can't we?
Mm-hmm. Oh, so if we went along here, based off of what we can see, would we be able to see across?
Yes. And
This
so
area?
basically, it's
Okay.
like I said, it's kind of
Oh.
like Colosseum. And so
Okay.
these are, it's basically multi-tiered elevation. So this is the lowest. This is going to be the second. This is going to be the third. And then these are kind of the highest points, which looks to be these highest points are where like the watchtowers are placed.
Well, we could walk
Okay.
down through here. So above the trolls still, but on the same level as this hole down here.
That
So-
would be... Yeah. And it
Yeah.
also wouldn't look too sus, because it wouldn't look like we're trying to hide or sneak past, right?
No, we're walking right through with a prisoner. So, well, Valnith turns to Anar and says, "Are you sure you're up for this? I wouldn't put my worst enemy through what we're about to go through right now."
He says, "Give me my hammer." And Caliph here, he takes the hammer out of his bag and gives it to Anar. And Ginar, she says, "Yes. Let's do it."
Okay.
And with
Down through
that,
here.
the group
Val-
of you are gonna
Valnith
have
takes the
to
back.
make your way. So there's actually no space to actually fit specifically
Oh.
here.
So
You
we'll
would
have to
go
come
yeah,
down here and then...
go
around.
up and kind of around. So essentially what this is
Cool.
going to be is it's not going to be stealthy, as you seem to be escorting what looks to be a prisoner. But as you're doing so, you will be seen and you will be spotted by multiple guards along the path, which means you're going to have to do any kind of talk, any kind of persuasion to be able to say anything about it. And we're going to switch off between the Kyrian set and then your set. We're going to actually start with Kyrian. So, with Kyrian, what do you guys want to do with him?
Well, he kind of wants to. He's scouting out, right? That's the whole plan.
He's
with him?
scouting out, and he
Just-
wants to get close enough to be able to see this area, but he wants to be able to keep an eye on everything that is going on, just in case anything goes south. He can try to do something to be able to help.
So right here is this kind of like a tiered enclave. Like if he hides behind here, it cuts off line of vision from here.
No,
right
so
here?
basically there's a path that winds up. Basically, if he went
Okay.
here, he would be able to. And so there's like basically like a ridge that's here. There's a
Mhm.
path that goes upwards in this direction, up into kind of around here where there's this tower. And then he can continue to move either back behind or through here to do whatever it's the case. There are many options here. So he can attempt to take the place of any of these guys by either trying to convince them or, as you guys had done at the Broken Keep, assassinations to a degree of killing,
Mhm.
whatever. And how that works, again, remember, is it's an attack, and you can you can immediately kill them with I believe it was a 6+ on the dagger attack damage. And then you would have to make a successful stealth check, and then a 6+ on the rolled damage. Otherwise, the combat will begin with just him losing the amount of hit points, basically 5.
Yeah, which man, I think assassination would be the best course of action, but also it could potentially be the absolute worst. And so I think we should rule that out right now, unless it needs to happen. Can he, as he makes his way kind of this way, since he's walking, can he make an immediate perception check to see if there's like where people are placed, and like if there's an ideal place that he can walk without him seeming like he's standing out?
I'm gonna have him make actually a nature check for that. As he's just watching, like kind of looking at the general layout of this area.
Okay. 12 plus 4, 16.
16. You, as he looks out amongst, you can see that this side seems to be the most traveled of the two sides. And it doesn't rise up quite as high as the other side does at all. And as he begins to walk, he walks with purpose. I'm going to actually have him make a performance check for me.
Okay.
And he gets a plus
With a
3
plus
to
3
this.
to that?
Yep. Or plus 2 to this, not 3.
Plus 2. Well, it was really freaking good. 17, 18, 19. Performance. 19.
Before this guy up at the top even says anything, and actually he looks close and sees that there's this large fire that's up there, and also what looks to be a bell that has been placed. And in this guy's hand, he has a bow on basically and a quiver on his back, and he has basically like a hand hammer to be able to use. And Kyrian, he makes his way through and he says, "As you were." Very successfully making his way past in this general direction. By the time he sneaks up to here, we're going to go ahead and jump over to the other group. And so you continue to walk forward. And this guy up here, you notice a very similar, basically, thread where there is a... this one doesn't actually have like a torch or a flame, but this is the highest tower that's in the entire valley. He does have a bell that is there, and he says, "Who goes there? Announce yourselves." And Califir, he looks up, and he and the group of you step aside to show a dwarf, and he says, "As you were, we're simply just escorting this prisoner back to the prisons." And he looks down and he says, "Why are there so many of you for escorting just one measly dwarf? He doesn't even look intimidating." And he looks closely, almost like tauntingly, at the group of you. I'm going to actually have the 3 of you make a group performance check for me. I got a 12 with Califir.
18 with Valinith.
Oh, only an 8.
Okay, I'm gonna have Valinith address this guy.
Okay. Valinith will look up at him and kind of flash his cloak. What kind of cloak is he wearing? Is he wearing just a normal one?
Yeah, he's wearing just a normal cloak.
Valinith looks up at him and says, "How dare you address your superior like that? This is a high-profile case, one specifically for Mormog. We are moving through, and I won't have any tongue from you."
He looks and he just kind of like is a little bit like shaken by this, and he's like, "Fine, go on then." And he looks as you continue to escort Ginar in this direction. His eyes kind of linger a little bit on Theodric, and like as Theodric is carrying up the rear, and he says, "Hey, I don't recognize you. You must be new."
Yeah, I am. And are you around enough to recognize every single person who comes in here?
Fine, so be it.
I like the sass. It's perfect.
And with that, you make your way down into kind of like this central platform. And as you do, or a walkway, as you do, you see that it's about 10 to 15 feet across in some areas. And you see just the trolls. Many of them actually stand head height with the top of this. And they don't seem to be paying any attention to you as they continue to chat. However, you hear one of the trolls at the very front say, "Silence! All of you filth!" And like so much where it almost kind of like shakes the entire area. And actually, as this happens, I'm gonna actually have Kyrian make a dexterity saving throw, and this is going to be at disadvantage because of the environment.
Okay. Oh, that's Valineth. So 13.
13. He dodges out of the way of a few falling rocks that begin to from the mountainside that and land here. One of them hits actually one of the trolls as it just like basically just like goes up against one of the trolls. But he said, "The captain's about ready to speak. Quiet, all of you. Stick to your cups. Keep your ears open." And without further ado, from this cave entrance, so this is the troll that is speaking, the one on the side. And from the cave entrance, the very same creature that you had seen, Captain Mormog, emerges. And at his side, he has two individuals. They looked both to be men. One of them, he's carrying a great battle axe on his, basically on his shoulder, and he kind of has this cocky smirk, this expression upon his face. And additionally, you see somebody else on his other side, actually flip sides. You see someone else on his other side. It looks to be some man who is cloaked with a basically a hood on his head. He isn't quite as tall or even as brawn as the other guy, but he has basically like this cane that's he has basically helping him walk through this area. And you see, you all see this at the moment, and you stop for but a moment as all the attention is drawn to Captain Mormog up on the stage, and he begins to speak. "Brothers, sisters, you are at your half-drunk hardy, eh? Now hearken here. You knows from where I came. You knows who I serve. Long time since last we walked here in the north. But here, even his heart flies with good reason. Here are soldiers he favors afore all others. Here is the strength of his armies of old. Know this, you lot. He's coming back, he is." What are you doing at this moment? Are you just continuing to proceed as he's speaking, or are you going to... I mean, you can hear as you continue to walk, or are you going to stop and listen?
Can Valineth make a perception check about who he is, just based, not even as a perception check, but like a knowledge check or something about who he is specifically that's being referred to as he walks?
Yeah, make an insight check.
Okay. 7.
No, it's pretty unclear as far as that being the case. You're kind of just like bewildered by the presence of Captain Mormog just generally. He definitely exudes kind of this aura of fear, but this aura of like command as well. And we're gonna go ahead and jump back up to Kyrian. So Kyrian, as the speech is happening, he's gonna continue to walk his way around the back section here, to which this guard is going to address him, and it says, "Oi, stop where you are. The captain's speaking." How would you like Kyrian to respond to this?
Kyrian says, I'm here for the change of guard. It is my turn to keep watch.
Is it that time already? Go ahead and make a deception check for me at a +3.
Let's see. Deception. It's a 10.
He shakes his head and he says, "It's not that late yet, is it? Go retake your post before I turn you in."
And before Kyrian leaves, he says, "I'm just here, coming from where I was sent. I have nowhere to go back to. Do you want to answer to the captain yourself?"
Make a deception check at disadvantage. You still get your +3, +2, but
Yeah. Okay. All right. Please be fine. Okay. Same roll. That would be 15.
Fine. Where am I to report?
So Kyrian, thinking back to the group of who's coming from the Broken Keep, who's coming in here, and he says, "I come from the group coming from the Broken Keep. They are out of the valley and past the Enting, or whatever his name is, whatever. Etten. So don't disturb him on the way through. He seems pretty angry."
And he says, "Fine. I leave it to you." And he leaves and he walks off.
He takes the post.
Back to your group that's huddled here. What again? That begs the question: what are you doing? Are you going to stop or are you going to continue forward?
I think we've got to stop. I don't think we can sneak past when we're getting this close to them all.
No. Well, especially since we're on that first level, I kind of feel like
Right.
for continuing to walk, we're going to gain the attention of these guys on the stage, being like, "What the heck are you
Exactly.
doing?" Especially these guys, because they're
Oh, yeah.
probably our superiors technically. So.
Yep. I reckon we
Okay.
stay where we are.
Mormont continues. Weak are the Westlands, gone soft with age. They haven't known strife in 1,000 years. Yet you sit in the mountains and grind rock for your bread. Listen, we have many friends in these lands now. Men that have been useful. Men that are more useful than just their flesh. Men to work with us. Men to serve us. And he gestures to both men that are on either side of him. The man with the axe, he kind of stands proudly and he just kind of like grimaces. And the other one doesn't seem to have much of a changed expression. Keep a sharp eye out while you sleep and more things too. I've been busy, you see, digging places, caves and such. Set all about Eriador. Secret places where the light of the sun will never touch you. Until the Dark Lord's will. The sun will come out no more round here. I'm gonna have the group of you make Shadow Lord checks for me.
6.
Kyrian. 9 for Kyrian.
12
And
for
Valinith.
Caliphyr.
10 for Valinith.
Caliphyr, he says in a low voice, "The Dark Lord. By who does he mean? Nobody's occupied the lands of Mordor since the battle of the Last Alliance. No way could he be referring to him. He's long dead."
Does Valinith have any knowledge about Elrond and the Grey Council going
Probably no.
older?
That's pretty secret.
I do, though. Haha, I
Oh.
do. Elrond told me.
Awesome.
And I'm going to just go... See, when I was speaking to Lord Elrond, he said that Sauron may not be as gone as we all thought he was. I'll tell you more later, but this bodes
poorly.
Caliphyr, he turns to you and he faces you, and he kind of just like looks into the eyes of everybody and says, "It can't be. It can't be." As he looks back up, almost with like just like seething hatred towards Mormog, Mormog continues. "Time soon coming to leave these highlands and take back what was years long afore. Join up with me, and you will never long for meat nor drink. Join with us," and he gestures to the two companions at his side. "And you will have plunder, likes of which have not been seen in an age." And many of the trolls throughout the Broadcleave, they pick up a chant, "More Mog, more Mog, more Mog." And this guy who's on the cliff, he holds out basically his axe, and he like almost in kind of like battle charge pose, and he says, "Forangma!" And you hear just a roar from everybody that's around. However, all of this is interrupted with the troll that had initially announced, and he said, "Oi, you lot!" And he is gesturing up, like pointed with a finger at basically the chest of Mormog, and he says, "How do you know we can trust you? The Dark Lord abandoned us so long ago." And Captain Mormog, he looks down, he just like grimaces, and he says, "Brisk bad fool." And the troll says, "Fine. So be it. My king, my brethren, years ago, we slew the chieftain of the Dunedain by my very own hands, Eriador. Men are weak. The Dunedain are scattered. Now's our chance, with emissary of the Darklands, to reclaim Eriador. But we must do this smart-like, according to the Dark Lord's plans." And you hear all of the trolls go, as they begin to cheer and like clank their tankards and stuff all around. And this troll, he says, "Captain, what will you have me and my king do?" And Mormog looks down at him and says, "Birder, chieftain of the trolls in Eriador, you will be patient. This plan will take time in order to be executed correctly. Nobody knows of our movements in Eriador, and because of that, there's no need to rush things." I'm gonna have the group of you make investigation checks for me.
Okay.
Investigation.
That's a big old 2 from me.
Oh, and that's a
Yeah.
natural 1 for Caliph here.
Yeah, that's a 6 for Valineth.
I'm gonna have you roll for Kyrian.
Okay. Kyrian, come on.
I do have to be getting ready for work soon.
No worries,
Okay.
no worries.
No problem.
Oh, good.
17 plus investigation.
Mhm.
17 plus 4, 21.
There is a hatred that's beginning to bubble up within Kyrian's bones. He sees Birder, the chieftain of the Dunedain, or the chieftain of the trolls, and he remembers back to the day of this battle against the Dunedain and this troll chieftain. But more than that, he remembers, by the hand of this very troll, the death of his beloved. And he pulls out his dagger, and he looks at it, sheathes it, and steels himself as he gazes up at the blackened rock that is before him. And that is where we're going to end our session for today.
Oh my gosh, this is so intense. What a way to start the new year coming in this next session. My goodness.
Speaking of
Right.
which, our next session will be, let me go ahead and look further ahead. Not on the 1st, I have celebrations that I will be doing then. So we will be probably resuming this on the 3rd week, which is the 15th. So exactly a month from now of January is when we're going to be having our next session. And with that, we're going to go ahead and close things down for today. And we're going to go ahead and start with you, Theodric, on your thoughts on today, and then you can go ahead and peace out.
Okie dokie. It was a good session today, very tense. I'm always so torn about any sort of like sneaky stealth sections because Theodric is not built for it. Theodric isn't built for it. But we always seem to somehow muddle through. So they're always exciting because
Big help from Brit there early on.
right?
Yeah. Ooh.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Which seems to be a pretty normal thing to happen is that we get in too deep and Brit's
Saving us.
inspiration usually pulls us out of the fire. But it was very exciting. I'm very curious about these two fellows who are hanging out with Mormog. Like, kudos to the dude who's got no shirt on and a great axe, though. Like, in this weather, you know, props to him. But, yeah, I'm very curious to see where this
built
goes.
a sturder stuff.
Apparently so. It's gonna have frostbite to his nipples. Like, don't know how he's gonna do it. But yeah, it was a good session. I'm glad to get back into it.
Absolutely. And it was great to have you. Honestly, it's been kind of like the build up to kind of like these moments have been pretty good and pretty tense. I'm glad Theodric was able to join before kind of like the back half of this adventure really took place, so you could kind of experience this firsthand of what's happening, what's about to take place, what is going to take place. Yeah, it's crazy, but
It's very scary.
it's very scary. It's something. But thank you so much for dropping by. If you do have to hop off, feel free to do so as we move to Dane and your thoughts for today's session.
I do.
All right,
as
have a
well.
good one, Australian.
Bye, Australian.
See you guys.
Have a good one.
Yeah, no, I mean, I thought it was really good. Man, before today's session, I never thought that it was gonna go how it did. You know, I thought it was gonna be way different. With how the events proceeded. The fact that we actually stealthed through is kind of a miracle because Valnith isn't super stealthy. And I know Theodric and Caliphyr aren't. So I mean,
Thank God
thank you, Brit,
Caliphyr got
for the
rid
help.
of his heavy armor because he
Oh,
would
yeah.
be clanking all the way through. There were a couple of rules that if we didn't have the advantage on it, oh man, he was getting like, it was like feast or famine. He was getting like a 13 plus, or he was getting like below like a 5, and so it was like,
Yeah, I mean, that's how Valnith was rolling today. He was either rolling like 2s or 3s or like 15s or 16s. So it's one of those things where Valnith was also kind of rolling feast or famine today. Luckily, again, we made it to the point that we did make it. I'm very more so, I guess my main point is I'm very curious on how Cole is going to react to this situation.
Yep.
Because this seems very integral to Kyrion's backstory.
Yep.
So obviously we'll get this up on YouTube and make sure Cole gets to watch it. And yeah, it's going to be, I think, super intense going forward, how we're going to get out of here. But as of now, there's two things that I'm thinking. It's like Mormog said that we need to be patient because no one knows. However, there's a group of men coming from the Broken Keep or the fortress saying like it was set on fire. You know, and so I don't know if that's going to push the plans further ahead. I'm still curious to see if there's going to be any way that we could disrupt things, whether or not that's getting the trolls to turn on each other, because it seemed like they still have no love for each other really, especially when they're in a drunken state. And obviously the men too are most likely probably just following these guys, and they just happen to be siding themselves with Mormog himself. But I'm curious if we can actually do something to kind of stall things a little bit longer. But I guess we have a couple weeks to think about it. I'm also curious to see if we can find any more prisoners, and any of that. So it'll be good.
Yeah,
It'll
for
be
sure.
interesting.
Yeah, one of the things that this was kind of, especially like this speech, it's definitely probably worth going back and re-listening and like everything that happened in the speech. Obviously, a lot of it tends to be kind of quite on the nose as far as like their thoughts and their plans. But the fact that it's actually been revealed that like there's a purpose for why they're gathering dwarves, for digging, for doing all that kind of stuff, so they basically can have a connected network to where the creatures of the darkness can basically move throughout all of Eriador beneath the feet of the people up top without any restriction from the sunlight. And then also the basically the promise of wealth, the promise of treasure, these things that you've already kind of seen signs of at the Broken Keep are kind of starting to present themselves. And also kind of what in your similar vein of what you were saying, like I'm so curious to see how Cole is going to deal with this whole situation, because like literally like this dude is like the guy responsible for the death of his basically fiance. Yep. And thank goodness you had that 21 for that investigation check, because it drew his attention from this to this. And then you'll find out what this is in the new year, what's written upon this rock. He'll be able, basically we'll start off our session by talking about that and reading that. But yeah, I'm super curious to see like what's going on with that too. I'm also, another quick thought, I also didn't know how this was going to go. I mean, I know generally the time frame. I didn't know like if any battles were going to happen, whether it was the 3 hill trolls. I had battles set up. I still have battles set up. Hill trolls, Etten, whatever's going on here. There's all kinds of things, and like that, I thought that was smart from like way back in the day, like at the Broken Keep, when you guys were like, let's take some of these cloaks, and the fact that they've been useful enough going forward to be able to actually like use as disguises, because this is something that I think in like the original source text, I think I've made it a little bit more difficult as far as this goes, but unintentionally made it more difficult, but it's pretty crazy to see kind of like how this is going and what this is going to look like, but we'll see what happens in the new year.
We're still not out of it, and that's the biggest thing. It's like we are quite literally in the middle of it. So can we get out without being spotted and without creating a ruckus? Can we find the information that we need to find out before we have to head out, or what? You know, it's just going to be interesting. See, hopefully no casualties on the way out of it. So
fingers crossed. But yeah, I think that's going to end it. Dane, do you have any announcements before we do hop off?
Yeah, as far as like, again, as I mentioned at the beginning of stream, as far as streams the rest of the week, Kyle and I are going to try to stream on Thursday. Again, same time as this stream, 5 p.m. At the very least, I'm going to try to get my old computer to get all uploaded, and hopefully that works. If it's an internet thing, unfortunately, it's an internet thing, and I don't know how we'll be able to do it. I'll talk to you a little bit about that, Kyle. See if there's even a way that we could stream from your end of it. I know that's tough, but we'll see if we can figure something out. Either way, we'll try to figure it out. We're gonna have a couple times throughout the week. We're gonna be testing them, so we might be going live on and off. Don't worry about that. We're just testing that. As far as Cole's stream tomorrow, I still do not know if he will be streaming tomorrow. I think he's intending to, so stay tuned for that. That is 2 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. So go join him for that. He's
also
playing
on Thursday, I just
Mario.
had a thought. On Thursday, if we are unable to go live for whatever reason for the Twin Blades of Eorzea, I might actually just finish up Final Fantasy VII Remake, because I'm pretty sure I'm 1 chapter away from beating the game, and it might be kind of like a shorter stream, which is perfect, because if we're trying to get Twin Blades of Eorzea working, it might take a little bit of time up front if it doesn't work immediately, and then we can just transition to mine. So we will have a stream regardless, on Thursday, but that'll be kind of probably the last stream for the year, if that.
Yeah. So the week of Christmas, so next week, all next week, we don't have anything. And then if we do start some stuff in the new year, it'll most likely either be from Cole or me. I know Kyle's taking that whole first week of January off as well. So either way, join our Discord. Our Discord is the best way to be able to make sure you keep up with the schedule and things that are moving forward. Like I said, in the new year, Fantasy Forge is actually going to become an LLC, so also an official company, meaning we're gonna be using our website a lot more. So yes, we'll have the Discord as far as like the streams and like the YouTube uploads go. But as far as like big news, like official scheduling, things like that, we're definitely going to be utilizing the website more, which that is linked in the about section below. So feel free to go click that, save it in your browser, bookmark it, do what you need to. We're constantly going to be updating things, especially with Everlast. As we announced last Friday during our Everlast stream, we are coming out with the Everlast TCG. So again, thanks for your guys's honestly hearts and dedication towards the game of Everlast. Again, we've been working on the tabletop RPG for a while, but because of your guys' generosity, we've been able to create so much artwork for the actual source material that we're also creating a card game. Part of the reason we're creating it is, I mean, TCGs, card games are awesome and they're really fun in the first place.
But it's also
but they're
it's a good way, just really quickly before, because for some of you, maybe a tabletop RPG is something that is like really fun. Maybe you enjoy watching them, but maybe it's not really like your creative powerhouse to be able to play. The nice thing about a TCG is it allows you to play a game that's like quick. Like within like if you have an hour only to like play a game, like you can get a game or two of like a TCG in if you have like a friend to play with, or even as Max has been doing, playing with himself and doing a lot of play testing and whatnot. And if that's kind of your thing, like it gives you kind of like a taste of Everlast, but like on like a smaller scale.
Well, and as well as it's kind of a resource for you guys as well to own a bit of Everlast. I mean, like the nice thing about TCG is you can collect all of your favorite characters, or even if you're a big player, you can obviously collect them to play as well. It also is intended to help you get to know the world of Everlast, especially for the first 2 expansions that are coming out. It has to do with the very first set that's coming out with Everlast as far as the tabletop RPG goes. So you can get to know the characters, you can get to know some of the areas, you can get to know some of the places, so that when the tabletop RPG does come out, it's perfect because you're familiar with these characters. Also, the battle system is shockingly similar to the battle system of the tabletop RPG, which is intentional. So consider doing that. Again, that is going to be coming to Kickstarter in March. If you're in Colorado or the United States, we will be having some pre-release events. That's why I said make sure to go to the website, because we're going to be posting all of those pre-release events before the March Kickstarter release there. So that way, if you guys are curious about it, you can go and learn how to play the game. We will be uploading as well onto YouTube a bunch of tutorials on how to play it, and a bunch of resources for you guys to get hyped for it before March actually ends up happening, which is nice. So consider that. That's definitely something that we've been working really hard this past year. Yeah, we really appreciate your guys' prayers and support. And the biggest thing you can do right now is share it with your friends. Let them know. We have a trailer that is available on our YouTube channel. Feel free to send it to people. If you have people in your life who like fantasy sort of JRPG kind of worlds, tabletop RPGs, or just trading card games. Like we have a bunch of people in our lives who love Pokemon, who love Magic the Gathering, and they're super excited for this. So it's a brand new game that's coming out that I think will like it's play tested and it looks really nice.
It looks nice, and it's also very different from like all of like the other games. Like obviously it has like card game elements that like exist in pretty much every card game in it, but it feels different, it plays different than any other card game that you, and it's easy to learn. Actually, it's very quick to pick up and learn. Especially if like you're familiar with the tabletop RPG, at least from our streams, like the way the combat system works, like it's super duper easy to pick up.
Well, and even just card games in general, like if you play card games, even if you don't play card games, it's an easy enough game to pick up. That was the one thing we were really trying to test to see if this was going to be hard for people to pick up. But no, I mean, with all the people that we've had test it who are with TCG backgrounds, with tabletop RPG backgrounds, overall people have seemed to pick it up pretty quick. And again, we're going to be putting out tutorials on YouTube as well to be able to help you guys. And then at the live events that we're going to be having for the pre-release events, we will also be there helping to teach. If you are not in the Colorado area and you are interested across the United States in hosting an event and you're serious about having a hosting an event and you can get a card shop to be able to do so, feel free to reach out to me. Max and I may even consider state hopping to be able to get this game out there. So either way, just let us know. It's really exciting, and we're excited to present this game for you. Aside from that, I can't think of anything else. Anything else, Kyle?
Sponsors, Dai Snacky, they're a Japanese sweets and luxury treats company. They have been supporting us for years on the channel, and they're amazing. They have another number of Japanese snack boxes from their Omakase box, which has more popular Japanese snacks, to their Omakase Luke's box, which has more traditional Japanese snacks. If you do order from them, say that that Fantasy Forge sent you at checkout. That's how we get credit, make our way towards our next free Omakase box. And then also, if you do order from them, put your Twitch name. That's how we know that you've ordered from them, like specifically you, so you can get more tickets towards our next free Omakase box giveaway, which we are giving away one on Thursday. But for the next one, we've already pulled all the names and all and whatnot for the ones for the last one, but for the next one, potentially in the future. Also, speaking of Everlast, there's a couple of ways that you can support the creation of the art, creation of the game, so we can continuously create more TCG, more RPG content for you. Coffee of the Realms, if you're into coffee, or Fragrances of the Realms, and they all have official Everlast art on them, so that's pretty darn sweet. You can have some memorabilia, you can have some useful things such as delicious scented candles or delicious coffee, so it's kind of up to you, like whatever you like, but that's how we've been able to help create that art and whatnot to be able to fund that. So we really appreciate you, each and every one of you, but let's go ahead and close in prayer. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. O Jesus, my Savior and Redeemer, Son of the living God, behold, we kneel before you and offer you our reparation. We would make amends for all the blasphemies uttered against your holy name, for all the injuries done to you in the Blessed Sacrament, for all the irreverence shown towards your Immaculate Virgin Mother, for all the slanders spoken against your spouse, the Holy Catholic Church. O Jesus, who has said, if you ask the Father anything in my name, he will give it to you. We pray and beseech you for all our brethren who are in danger of sin. Shield them from every temptation to fall away from the true faith. Save those who are even now standing on the brink of the abyss. To all of them, give light and knowledge of the truth, courage and strength for the conflict with evil, perseverance in faith and active charity. For this do we pray, most merciful Jesus, in your name unto God the Father, with whom you live and reign in the unity of the Holy Spirit, world without end. Amen. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. God bless you all. I will see you all on Friday, and have an amazing, end to Advent, Christmas season, beginning of the Christmas season, and also New Year. I will see you all guys later. Bye, everybody. God bless.